In this segment, we'll look into another strategy called table per concrete class. So in this case, we have got the base class, which is an abstract class, and we have got the derived class, which extends the user. So in this case, what happens is that each concrete class is mapped to its own table. So the way it would happen is that, for example, if you have got user and if you have got customer and if you have got employee, okay, and let's assume that the user class is an abstract class. So it will have a table called employee. Let's say this has got ID and name, and this has got rank. So it will have ID, name, and rank. And if this has got, let's say, credit limit, then this guy will basically map to a customer table, which will again have ID, name, and credit limit. Okay, and there is the possibility to define not null constraints on this table, but the tables are not normalized in the sense that you still have ID and name, so that the common thing is not keeping at one place. And if you have to do queries like let's say select you from user, then it has to really do a SQL union kind of thing between this table and collect the data and send it back, or it will have to go for customer, get the data, go for employee, get the data, and then create a collection out of that one. So this is not one of the very popular strategies, but it's there as one of the strategies. Then the next one is table per subclass. In table per subclass, basically you have you don't have the abstract class here, it's a concrete class, and then you have got the extended class, the employee class. So what happens is that in this case, the basically the parent class or the super type will have its own table and the subtypes will have its own table. So as the name goes, it says table per subclass. So if we look into this, the way it would look like is that the way it would look like is that you have got this, let's say again user and customer and employee. So this was our table structure. And so what would happen is that the user would map to its own table. User, it has ID and name. And the customer would map to its own table. Customer. It will have its ID, but it will be really the same ID as the user ID if it belongs to the same record. And then it has got its credit limit. So the way it would happen is that if you save an user object, a record will be created in the user table only with ID and name. However, if you save a customer object, a record will be inserted into the user table, and taking that ID, another record would be inserted into the customer table. So that's how the insertions are handled. If you say select you from user, again it has to just hit this table, because this table would contain all the base data for each of the records. If you say customer, then it has to go and figure out and do a join between user and customer and bring only those data against which the customer, against which a record exists in the customer table also. So that's how the queries work. Again, in terms of advantage, disadvantages, the tables are normalized and you are able to define not null constraints. However, on the downside, this doesn't perform so well as single table strategies. So hopefully this would give an idea about what are the different inheritance strategies that can be applied to mapping the object world to the relational world.